would you mind introducing yourself for the audience, please?
Yeah, my name's Wylee Risso. I'm a oil painter living in Portland, Oregon. Um, yeah, I've been painting for about, oh God, like 10 years now, which still feels very fresh. But oh, my cat's behind me. Um, but I always just try to keep trying new things, and it always feels like a very I don't know. I don't feel like a seasoned painter. I feel like I'm constantly learning, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And so when you say it feels fresh, it is that that I suppose experimentation that you're still finding in the process. Is that what I understand you to mean?
Yeah, I never really want to feel boxed in to just one particular style or even approach. I've done very detailed work, and I've since tried to do a lot more loose work, and just trying to keep, I don't know, just trying to keep it interesting and not get bored, I
Yeah.
guess. Um, so yeah, just constantly learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed a couple of shifts in your timeline on Instagram, and all your work's really beautiful. I love it. There was
Thank
one
you.
which I thought was more detailed than the others early on. There was a self-portrait where you'd commented that you were still working on the hands, and it was just brilliant. And it stood out because it was had more detail, and it was surrounded by more graphic pieces that had more bold
Mm,
colors than I see currently. That's the current shift, is that you seem to have a softer color palette, which I think is really nice, to be honest. It really appeals to me what you're working on currently. So
thank you.
is it a conscious shift, or does it just happen as part of the process?
I mean, with the colors specifically, I feel like I've always kind of struggled. I feel like I go too saturated. So yeah, I guess there has been like a conscious shift to, or conscious decision to try not to be so saturated and focus on. I mean, maybe it gets a little too muddy at times, like a little too, too many, more grayed out tones. But yeah, so it's somewhat of a decision there, but also kind of depends on what the painting is. I mean, sometimes I love a very vibrant piece, um, but sometimes I don't know, it might not be what I'm actually going for. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. I like it because it seems to almost have more movement to it as well. It's almost as though you leave more ghost-like tones behind the stronger, more defined shapes in the foreground. So that's a conscious approach as well to the finish, is it? I see. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I mean, all my pieces are. I make my decisions kind of on the fly, and I'm sure a lot of people do as well. But I'll get like pretty deep into a piece and realize, you know what, I'm just not liking how this is looking. I'm not liking the feel of it. So okay, let's tone it down, or let's go even further. Let's just really lean into this aspect. And I'm pretty bad at fully covering up those not mistakes in the past, but the tracks from the beginning, which I think has become more so, uh, you know, evident in my work. I think a lot of my pieces, you can see those early stages in the finished product, which I've picked up on from other artists, where it's, hey, it's okay to do that, and leaning into that aspect of, sometimes painting is not linear, and it doesn't need to be from point A to point B done. It's sometimes you're hopping all the way back and moving forward, and I think that once I started allowing myself that kind of clarity, or it doesn't need to be perfect. That was one of the better things I could have done for myself. Just the allowance, I guess.
So you've made peace with the aesthetic of the previous layers being somewhat visible, because I
Mm-hmm.
prefer that, and I think a lot of people do. But is that something which am I hearing that it initially bothered you a bit? Is that you wanted a
Oh yeah,
matte finish to everything, kind of? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It always really bothered me, and I'll look at other painters I love, or where they have these like very thin washes, like maybe in the background, or and I don't know if they're intended to be this way, where you have these very thin washes of color, but then kind of layered on top, you get thicker paint, more opaque paint, uh, but you still see areas that are like almost like the background. And I always loved it. Like, I don't know if it's their forethought, like they knew they were going to do that, or if they just stumbled upon it. But I always struggled allowing myself to do it, because I felt like, okay, every inch of this painting needs to be covered, and it needs, the thickness of this portion needs to be consistent with this other portion. But really, it doesn't need to be that way, you know. So I've been. It's hard. It's very hard for me, because I feel like a perfectionist in so many ways. Where, okay, these lines need to be clean. They need to be as straight as they could possibly be. But they don't like I mean, and I'll ask my girlfriend, like, okay, how's this looking, and she's like, it's great. Or sometimes she's like, I'm not a fan. But when she does say it's you don't need to do anything else, it's great where it is, I'm like, well, I see this one edge that could be good, you know but then you're getting into a territory where, if you go a little too far, then you could lose something somewhere else. And it's a balancing act that I'm slowly learning.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier about not having too much planned for the painting. So I'm wondering how much you do plan or sketch beforehand. Is it a sketchbook, or is it, how does that work out for you?
Yeah, so that's changed over time. There was a period I would do sketchbook, like just thumbnails. But then I had a point where, I had my reference photo, and I would just go for it. Maybe like on the surface. Uh, Real quick, I paint mostly on wood panel, or paper. Canvas is, I've had a rough relationship with canvas, but I'm trying to get over that too. But anyway, so like on these wood panels, I would just go in with pencil, and very tediously measure everything out, try to get the composition just how I wanted, and usually pretty true to the reference imagery too. But nowadays, I've lightened up on that aspect of measuring every tiny thing, and instead I've been going in digitally, and doing digital mock-ups. So like going into Photoshop and either doing a paint over on the reference, where say I don't like the way something's looking specifically in the reference, I'll fix it on there, and then paint from that as reference. Sometimes then pulling from the original one too, but there's like a weird blend, and I think what's been helpful with that though is it allows me to not be so like clinging so tightly to the reference. You know, if there's like major color shifts that I would like to do, it feels easier and more forgiving to do it digitally than to make all those decisions in oil.
Yeah, but I have to go back to what you said earlier and ask about what went wrong with Canvas. What struggles have you had there?
Well, it's not so much like physical struggles. It's more so I don't maybe if I stretched my own canvas, I wouldn't have this problem. But the bounce is something that I'm not very crazy about. I don't know why. I've talked to other painters that they love when their canvas has a little give, but for me, maybe I got too used to working on a hard surface that when I go back to canvas, it feels like I'm on a trampoline. Like it feels hard to control. And I also was never really fond of the the canvas texture, which I know sounds a little out there, but like when I would want to do like very like fine lines, I felt like it was so difficult to achieve fine lines without going over them a million times. So that's where paper and wood came into play, where it felt more forgiving in that way. But I'm getting over that. I recently started a piece on a pretty large canvas, and I'm finding I like some of the textural aspects now.
So is it to do with the because you were saying about being obsessive about making lines straight perfectly? Would that be difficult with the knit of the canvas and it would just frustrate you?
Yeah, it was, yeah, exactly. It was just more frustrating. I guess it being a little more porous. I don't know. I mean, I could just like gesso the hell out of it and then sand it down and then maybe it would be better, but I get impatient with my gesso job. On wood, I'm good for 3, maybe 4 layers, and then I call it good.
So with the thickness of paints, when you were saying about you wanted it to be equal in certain
Mm.
areas, is that strategic areas or is it equal throughout the surface? What's your strategy there?
So I'm finding myself nowadays just focusing on certain areas with thickness. Um, Now it's not always perfect. Sometimes I go a little off the rails. But in the past, I would try to do consistent, thick paint consistently throughout, which I do love the look of. But I don't know. I think it has its pitfalls. But I mean, it just kind of depends on the piece again. I mean, I could look at older work and really love how it turned out, and then I look at newer work and I'm like, I don't need to do that. Just more localized, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. And but will it be based on thin layers for darks and thicker layers for light, or is that not how you go about it?
That's never been how I approached it. I've listened to many painters I love, or kind of breakdowns of more historical painters, like they've had those methods, like thick lights, thin darks, and while I understand it on paper, when I'm doing it, I I don't. It doesn't compute. I end up just going thick throughout, which I mean, here's the other thing. I have never been properly trained. I just picked this up in like 2016, and I have done one workshop where I learned how another painter, did her process, and that's good. But other than that, it's just been a lot of trial and error on my part, and with that has come thick paint throughout. It works for me.
Well,
Now, oh, good.
sorry, I was just going to say you're a great example of not needing to be classically trained because it doesn't show in your work, and it works for you to use trial and error in order to develop that. So, do you have artist friends though who you can discuss technique with, or are you a pretty solo practitioner?
Yeah, I mean, that's I have at times, not that I'm not friends with these people anymore, but I'm honestly just terrible at keeping in touch with people. I've, there was a friend of mine who was living in Seattle when I was living up there, artist by the name of Justin Duffus. I had gone over to his studio a couple times, and I just bring, some paints and, some small canvas or paper, whatever. And we just paint for a little while. And he showed me a lot. He's texturally just incredible. I mean, like he'll use like squeegees to like, smear a bunch of like thin paint away, but then use his brush. And I'm sure I'm butchering all his process right now, but like just seeing him paint kind of opened me up to like, oh, it doesn't need to just be brush on surface. You could use your palette knife. You could use honestly whatever the hell you want. Now, do some things work better than others? Absolutely. But so like that was a time where I absolutely like started learning more like the possibilities. And then in recent years, more online painters. I mean, frankly, in my real life, I have a couple friends who paint. They're way more abstract. So I feel like there is kind of it's almost like a different language in a way, or the approach is a little different. But I don't know. There was like the Kanyo group, which I don't know if are you familiar with?
Oh, no.
It was like a group of artists kind of all over the world. I mean, people all over Europe, different parts of Asia, South America, Africa. I mean, like just everywhere. But there would be a lot of, like paint talk, like, oh, how do you do this? Or, whatever. I'm not so active in that group any longer, but, yeah, I feel like I'm kind of just rambling at this point, but
No, this is why I'm
I don't
asking.
know.
Yeah.
I guess all that being said, I don't really bounce much off of anybody anymore. It's just hard. It's also annoying, or I feel annoying, like asking people. So I just, which is weird because if people were to come to me, I would be more than happy. But I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, well, I mean, my experience as artists usually love having these conversations in person as well, because
Yeah,
if I want to have a long conversation with my brother, when I call him up and talk about any arts techniques or methods or approaches that I've come across, we'll be talking for over an hour. Whereas if it's just chit chat about films and what we've been up to, we could be on for 10, 15 minutes and that's it.
yeah.
Yeah, usually I find with a lot of artists that's the case. How unorthodox have you been then after your friend Justin has shown you what he uses? What have you tried?
Well, I definitely tried the squeegee. method for a little bit, which I ended up not sticking. Um, I ended up leaning more into the brushwork aspect, whereas the I don't know, like every now and then I love pulling out my palette knife and kind of like breaking up an edge, or I mean I'm trying to learn how to be okay with more noise per se. Um, but I don't know. I just love uh, the way when you're layering up a painting, you know, there's the very evident and strong brushstrokes, but then I've kind of gone further than where nothing is sacred in the actual application. Um, where I'm like, well, God, that one stroke is just God so confident, right? Well, no, it's getting covered up at some point, and which I've found allows for just like this really thick, kind of ugly looking paint. Like there's time, and I'm not at all comparing myself to Lucian Freud, but I'll look at some of Lucian Freud's portraits, and you just see how like thick and gunky a lot of it is, and I look at that and I'm like, that's what I want, you know. But you know, I don't know if I could fully commit, you know. Um, but I mean, going back to your original question, I don't. It was nice seeing the different applications, but I don't know if any of it really stuck for me. Um, you know, it's like watching someone play a certain style of guitar, and you're like, dude, that's incredible. Now, would I play it? Probably not. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, I'm also interested because you mentioned about certain things work better than others. I wonder if there's anything that you've tried where you think this just doesn't work. And whilst you're thinking, I'll just quickly say in art school, they encouraged us to use all types of unorthodox things. And I ended up going into the skip at the art school, finding broken clay and old, really rigid kind of springs that had been, just, I don't know what had happened, but they were almost, they wouldn't really spring anymore. There was no more giving them. So they were more just a bar that I was, dipping the spring into paint and then just batting it across this massive board that I had. And it made a landscape eventually, but I had to cover up all of that mess and leave some of the texture behind in order to
Hmm.
have any appreciation for that first initial stage. It wasn't what the art school was looking for because I finished it into a landscape and they didn't want that. I wanted that. But that would be something which I wouldn't say worked, but I made it work for my own preferences. Is there anything you've used where you think that just doesn't work? It's just not a good tool for me.
I mean, not really. I'd say like I not so much tool. I maybe surface. I tried to do a couple paintings on Yupo. Um,
I don't know what that
which
is.
it's a type. God, I mean, I hope I'm not butchering what it actually is. It's a type of paper, I think, but it almost feels kind of plasticky. It's like uh, very slick. Um, I tried to paint the way I do on it, and it just did not did not land. I've seen other artists use it, and you know they make really great work on it. But it, I don't know. I think I posted one thing that was on Yupo, and it was just I don't know. It's just like a weird. It's just weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as like actual tools, I mean, God, maybe at some point I tried some more unorthodox uh, methods, but not really. I mean, I've maybe like tried to uh not water down, but like thin out my paint way more than I normally would, and just like, okay, well, like let's make it more like washy, and if anything, that made me not want to use any medium at all, which is how I've painted for a long time now. Is just like no medium. I'm slowly changing that, but I don't know. I feel like I've just like there's not as much experimentation going on right now. It's just like I found something that is that works and is comfortable, and it's also less things to clean. I'm already terrible about cleaning brushes, but which I don't. I applaud any painter out there who takes the time, because I forget. Like I'll step away from painting for a minute, and then I get distracted, and then hours go by, and I'm like, oh, I probably should have wiped those off, but whatever.
Yeah, they're never lost. Just so you know, I don't know if you know that even a brush that's completely rock solid is never completely lost. If you want it back, there are ways of loosening it up again. But
Well, recently, I was like, okay, I have these brushes that I think I could bring back, and I got like kind of a tub of turpentine and just put the brushes in there, and then took them out after a couple hours, and then just like use soap on them and tried to bring them back to life as much as I could. And some came back, some did not. But it's one less trip to the art store that I have to make. So I'm trying to get better.
yeah,
Um, you know,
my furthest gone brushes, I left them in a jar with terps just in the bristles, but I left it overnight, and then afterwards I put washing up liquid in the palm of my hands, and I do small concentric circles, and it just worked
Mhm.
into the bristles, and eventually it brought them all back. So, and this was from completely solid, where you could feel it as a rock hitting against things. So I've got faith that they can all come back, but sometimes it damages the bristles. Depends what brush you've got. You will find that it
Yeah.
loses shape or something. So who knows?
Sometimes I'm cool with the kind of funky shape that like a lot of brushes I've been using lately. They've become so chiseled down that and kind of just like stumps, but for certain things they work. Now would I use them for like uh, filling in? Probably not, but I don't know. There's some sometimes they make sense.
Mm.
Yeah, the fine the more fine tip brushes. Those are the ones that I'll do. Part of my process is like relining out a lot of uh, a lot of the line work in a painting, and I'm so bad with those brushes that it's one use and then they're done.
Oh well, what about if the bristles have splayed more? And I can imagine that's not your preference to have kind of a brush where you just think, oh, I didn't want a paint line there, but it's there now. Don't think that's much use to you, is it? No.
No,
No.
straight into the trash.
So you
I mean,
do,
maybe
yeah, please, sorry.
maybe maybe they could be repurposed, but yeah, I don't know. I lose patience for those things, and I just on to the next.
Yeah, I think I don't see you painting countrysides much. So if you did that, you might find you want those squirrely, swirly lines just having that
That's a good
naturalistic movement.
that's a good point. I haven't tackled really any landscape paintings at all, but
Mm.
maybe I should.
It's not me making a
Uh,
suggestion. I love your still life. At the moment, you've got this amazing still life run, and I love your portraiture, but your still life work is my favorite of your work actually at the moment. I think it's
Thank you,
beautiful, really strong. So
thank
don't
you.
let me influence you at all. You just do whatever's natural to you. But if you ever do, you'll find those brushes handy, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe you won't actually. I'm not sure. You could have the same discipline cross over into whatever subject matter you approach. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think if I gave some like plein air or like landscape paintings, I think that could actually work.
Mm.
It's like something I've been thinking about for a long time, but I I don't know. It plein air specifically, like going out and you know to like a field or a mountaintop or whatever. I paint so slow that I don't. That's what scares me about it. I just I just feel like I'll be out there way too long and really have nothing to show for it. I feel like I'd rush through the process way more. Now, if I were to start something, out somewhere and then come back and work on it at home, then maybe there's something we could work with there. But uh, I don't know. It's something I've always wanted to do. I think I have my own barrier there.
Mm. Well, I don't know if you heard the artist Yo Ruma on the podcast, but she had
Mm.
very good advice for plein air painting, which is to do pochades, especially very small ones, because then if you use
Mm.
a big flat brush to do that, you'll get the basic shapes in very blocky, and it has the essence of what you've seen. And over time, those develop into more nuanced paintings, which her small pochades are, I think, beautiful because she'll have four in a row on a strip, that big, and she'll have four of them. Um, and I just think
That's
those are
cool.
a great representation of what you can achieve in situ, where you don't have to overcomplicate things with scale. But that's
Hmm.
completely, again, it's everyone's choice, and I just like her approach that way to change the demands of what plein air may make you face, really. Um,
Yeah. No, I should listen to that episode. I think that sounds interesting to me. I mean, there's been like work. I've been doing some more like digital uh, stuff lately, and um, I kind of think for landscape specific. I don't know. I should give it a go.
We have been working on something in the background.
We've had previous guests revisit the channel to give us additional content, everything from studio tours, sketchbook tours, talking us through the process of paintings, and all kinds of additional treats which you're exclusively going to see as a patron who supports the channel.
So by supporting us on Patreon, you help the channel keep going. There's a lot of work put into this, from the video editing to the sourcing of guests. So you really help us find those guests and to put the content out.
We have lots of content planned for the near future. So the links for that will be in the description of this video and in the description on the podcast channels. And otherwise, you can go on to Patreon and type in Painting Insights Podcast and support us that way. Thanks very much. Enjoy the video. What is your set palette if you have one? What colors do you use?
Yeah, so it's grown over time. For a long time, it was just kind of like a variation on the Zorn palette. I was using titanium white, cad red, yellow ochre, and then that's where it gets a little funky. So I've like kind of swapped between burnt umber and raw umber. And now I can't even remember which one I actually use. I want to say I stick to burnt umber now. Um, I'll use ultramarine blue. Um, what is it? Viridian. Let's see. Uh, crimson alizarin.
Alizarin Crimson,
Is
yeah.
it alizarin crimson? Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. And then one of my favorite uh, like tubes that I get started like very early in when I was teaching myself how to paint. I picked up like an olive green And for some reason, like I know that's roughly a color I could mix myself, but God, just throwing that with some, some red, it makes these like really awesome colors that I feel like when you look at a lot of my work, you can like, even though something may be white, or in my reference it is white, they always lean a little green, or in that realm, I guess. And a lot of that is because of the olive green. I think it's just like an awesome tube. And then I've added, oh God, like cad orange and cad yellow, but those have been recent. I think with like, I don't know, some more vibrant, like more like saturated paintings, I feel like I need to throw those in, but they're never really my go-to. It just kind of depends on what's going on in that specific piece.
So it's,
But
sorry,
go ahead.
please. I was just going to go through. It sounds like 2 yellows, 2 reds, 2 greens, burnt umber, cadmium orange. There's 1 blue, so it's only the yellow. It's only the ultramarine. Can't speak. Ultramarine as your blue. Yeah.
Yeah, every now and then I'll throw in phthalo blue, but that's a little more rare. That's not so often. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't. Honestly, a lot of my pieces don't have a lot of blue going on. I don't want to say I hate blue, but it's not not my. I don't know. I feel like I don't really paint many things where there's a lot of blue going on, which is weird. I don't know why. It's not conscious. It's not a conscious decision, but I'm like, oh yeah, reds, greens, those are cool. I like those.
No, I can't see any blues around you in your frame, to be honest. So
I'm not a very blue guy.
No. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that's nice. And yeah, so I mean, do you have a preference in the brand of paint? Because some people will specifically go for the high end stuff, and others will be an advocate for whatever paint works. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's changed over time. I think early on it was a lot of like Utrecht, and then some like Windsor and Newton here and there, and then what is it? It's Gamblin is like pretty much what I buy now. Now, I'm pretty sure Gamblin is based in Portland.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I had a coworker that used to work at Gamblin, and he would always offer to bring me paints, and I don't know why I never took him up on it, but I should have. But yeah, pretty much just Gamblin these days.
Yeah. So that's a good strong. Because I've never used Gamblin, and I need to go out and get some, to be honest.
It's nice.
Yeah.
There are certain, like I've tried let's see, I think I tried like the Gamblin yellow ochre, and it just, not saying it was bad, but I liked the Windsor and Newton one more for some reason. I don't know if the Gamblin felt a little more earthy than the Windsor and Newton, but for some reason that one I just like it more.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm also not picky with paint. Like I've had friends gift me, just like, hey, I'm not using this if you want to use it. So I'll take whatever works, I guess.
Yeah. Have you tried the Michael Harding brand yet?
No, I don't think I have.
You've not heard of it? No, Michael Harding. It's
no, I've heard of it, but I don't think I've tried it.
No, to me it's my favorite paint, but it means that I save it and I use my other paints until I really feel that I'm onto something, and then I'll use the Michael Harding. The viscosity of the paint is a lot denser than the others. It's a lot more pigment rich, and it just feels a lot more enjoyable to use, because thinner paints, not thinner, but kind of looser paints to me are fun and they're kind of looser to push around, but I don't see as much happen as quickly as I do with Michael Harding, where the quality seems to be just visible as soon as you apply it on the
Mm,
surface. So I recommend trying it, even though it's very high end and more pricey. I think the difference is palpable, you know. So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna make a little note of that.
yeah,
Cause I'm down to like experiment with new stuff. It's just yeah, when it's more pricey, I think exactly like what you're saying. I feel like I'd be a little more precious with it, and because I leave my palette out and then rise up.
yeah,
I'm bad. I'm a bad example of how to maintain your your studio space.
I do the same
Um,
thing, just so you know. I'm the same with brushes and I'm the same with palettes. The amount of times
okay,
I've looked and thought,
good.
okay, that's, you know, at least a tenner, you know, it's at least 10 quid worth of paint that's just dry on my palette. So I really
Yeah.
regret that. So I've done that several times.
Yeah, I consider it a good day when I remember to, put my palette in the freezer to
Mm.
try to prolong it. Uh, but I also live in a house with two other people, so there's not always freezer space.
Yeah.
You know.
I've heard from another artist, I can't remember if it was Ange Bell, it possibly is, because she buys what's left out of the vats of paint from a company. They mix them all together into greys and they sell them in tubes. And that's what she buys. And she said she has different tones of greys that she buys from a company, which sounds amazing to me because that's
Yeah.
something she introduces. But I think it may be her, it may have been someone else who recommended if you've got a palette that you they just haven't used and you can't store it and save it, scrape it all off and mix a grey out of what you've got left, and then save that somewhere as a grey because you'll have interesting greys that are warm and cool, that are pink and green, and that have hints to them based on the palette that's left or the colours left on the
Interesting.
palette. Yeah, so I think that's something I'm going to start trying to do. So because you seem to have the same shortcomings as I do, I can, you know, if you haven't got freezer space, try that because that's to me, I'd love the idea of having, you know, 5 different greys from the palette that's left over. Sounds fun.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I've never
I
tried it.
I should consider cool because I'm like, well, I know I'll get back to this at some point today. I don't have to worry about it. And then surely I don't, and then I do forget about it.
Yeah,
And if I could just remember to even do that,
yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
it's a win. Yeah. So, but yeah, and then brushes as well. Do you have any preference for brushes, either company or size or shape?
Okay. I mean, shape for sure. Size, yeah. Brand, no.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I've tried the Rosemary and Co. Brushes, and I really liked them. Um, but I tend to buy brushes on the fly. So if I'm like, oh shit, I this one's a dud. It's not going to work anymore. Well go over to the painting supply store but is Rosemary's based out of the UK? Is that
I assumed it was American, but I'll have to look that up. I'm not sure. I thought it might be
it
American.
might be American. I could just be misremembering. But regardless, waiting, like a week or so to get brushes in, I never have that forethought. Uh, Usually it's up into the up to the wire.
I need a brush in my hand now.
Yeah, and I don't have any. Um, but no, for I'll usually just try to get the cheapest without. I still want something that is good. Like I'm not just getting like a synthetic brush. Like I do have my preferences, but for as far as brand goes, no. Um, Now size, usually small, like a what like so I'll usually do like flats, um, and I want to say like a 2.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that specifically, but like quarter of an inch wide. So small brushes. And I've tried to use larger brushes, but with how I care for mine, or I guess lack thereof, larger brushes die much quicker. So a lot of paintings, I'll work on something that's, a couple feet by a couple feet, all with like a small brush. So they do take longer in that respect. But for some reason, and I see a lot of people are very organized. Like I'll watch videos of, demonstration, and people have, okay, this brush is for my warms, and this one's for my cool, whatever. Not me. It's one brush for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which I'm telling you, some people are going to listen to this and be like, God, this guy's ridiculous. But hey, it works for me. I mean, I just lean into it, I guess. Like I'm wiping them in between use. Now, every now and then, does it become a little more muddy? Sure. But I don't know. I've kind of like found how to work that way, and it makes sense. I don't know. But yeah, small brushes, flats. I'll use, like I said earlier, I'll use some more like fine line brushes every now and then. But no rounds. I don't like rounds for some reason.
No.
Yeah, flats are just my favorite.
So it's all flats, or are there some filberts as well, or some riggers, or no?
I've used filbert in the past. Yeah, I don't know. I think I do have some in the studio still. But I don't know. For some reason, I don't know, the way I'll apply, for like these sharp edges, I like being able to just like down, boom, down, where it's like a filbert or a round, I guess you'd have to, I don't know. It's just, things get weird. I've been filming some different painting processes recently, and I swear they make sense when you see them being done. Don't let me explaining it try to deter anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Has it kind of revealed anything to you? Because filming usually, for me, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's painting or something else, when you film yourself doing something, it usually there's an epiphany along the way of going, I didn't realize I was doing that, or I didn't realize that had happened on the painting because I was too close to it to see that occur, so I removed it or something.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. Yeah, sometimes you get tunnel vision, and which I try to let my eye bounce around the whole thing pretty consistently, and you'll see it in certain videos, like it, I'll be working on this spot, detailing this, and then I jump over here, and I'm never really focused on one area. So, I've definitely noticed things like that in the past, but it's not so surprising. But I don't know. The weird things I'll notice in like a time lapse video, for example, is just like my hands or like the brush movements themselves. They're not like big sweeping motions or anything. It's very like controlled. Just weird. That's why I like watching other people paint. You know, it looks prettier.
You know, it'll be the
Uh,
same the other way around. People say, I love watching you paint because you have the, you know, that precision, which nobody else seems to have mastered, you know, so it's, you're going to have that benefit. So yeah, don't let that
that's true.
put you off your own way. And I assume there's a lot of cutting in as well with your painting because it's, if you're using one brush, it can get, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but over time, I feel as though it changes from the point of being as washed as it gets from the first use to mid painting where you're washing it and using it and washing it and using it. It just doesn't seem to have that rigidity, like the bristles have loosened up, they've been pushed around so much. So I assume there's a lot of cutting back in to clean up certain areas for your finish. Is that true? Where you do you start off looser and then you tighten it up along the way, or
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd say a lot of my process is uh, very. I mean, I start very loose. I mean, again, it can differ. Like kind of like what I was saying earlier. Like the pencil drawing before I start painting is very tight, and then the painting would start pretty tight and then loosen up, and then I feel like I've gone way off target. So then I would scrape, scrape whatever paint off, reline it, like, redraw it, paint again, and do that however many times until we finally get where we're actually trying to go. But recently, I mean, slightly off topic, but I took a 3D character class. So like 3D modeling, rendering, sculpting, this whole thing. And one of the, big methods there, and it is very true in painting, is you start large, and then you slowly, keep sculpting away at it, but never getting too detailed until you hit that point. And so you start with large generalized shapes, then slowly keep modeling them. And it's weird after like years and years of painting that it took taking a class that is not about painting to show me how to paint in a weird way, where now that's my approach a lot of the time, is just big generalized shapes and then slowly carving away at it. So in a way, I guess I don't know how to say yes or no to your original question, but it's fluid. I don't know. I mean, it sometimes, yes, I need to cut in, and I feel like I'm slowly getting away from that, but I don't know.
mm, no, that's fair. It's there is still a nice subtle looseness to your work, which is what I enjoy about it. Is you can see how it's generally very tight. The way it's painted, it's very accurate, but there's enough life in there that there's movement and energy to the painting, which I think is really important, which is why your work really does stand out. Um, but I mean, I loved your series on. It seemed to be books. Like was it Rachel reading? Is that your partner?
That was a ex girlfriend of mine, but yeah. I mean, she was always reading. So,
Yeah.
you know, when you live with someone, I mean, I know a lot of friends, or a lot of people who paint who don't paint people they're in relationships with, right?
Mhm.
But I do,
Yeah.
and I love being able to take little snapshots, throughout just like moments in the day. And so like what you're referencing, it wasn't necessarily like a series like on books or people reading. It was just that's what she did,
Mhm.
So it just happened. I guess it just so happened to be a couple book related things.
Yeah. I think I grouped it together with others in my mind as something which would be nice as part of an exhibition. There was one which I'm just going to refresh the title. I tried to remember it, but I don't want to butcher it. And it's just someone's hands looking at the book. And I love it. You'll probably remember exactly which one I'm talking about, but it shows the book, and it's got, there it is there. So it's called All That the Rain Promises, which is the title of the book, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, the title of the book is All That the Rain Promises and More. It's a book on about mushrooms. And so it's just like I think a lot about like foraging mushrooms and different types of mushrooms and yada yada yada. But yeah, that one specifically, I think that's one of my favorite pieces I've done. I feel like I kind of unlocked something there, which I don't know if other painters feel this way, but there every so often there's a piece that you achieve something that you had set out to do, and almost like proving to yourself in a way, like, oh, I can do that thing in that way. I mean, that painting probably, God, I would say took, 4 to 5 months. I would guess. So it was a labor of love for sure, but I'm very happy with how it came out.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful painting, and I can see what you mean. I mean, I know that other artists who've said that they feel these moments where they level up after a certain painting, which is exactly what you're talking about. So it was just the colours are perfect for it. They're very restful, easy to look at, beautiful shapes, great composition, and yeah, I loved it. It stood out as a great painting, and it just coupled with other reading based paintings that I saw that I thought, I hope this was part of an exhibition, even if it wasn't. It's kind of in my mind. They sit together well.
It's funny you say that. I mean, first of all, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say. But when you first were saying like this series on reading, it took me a second where I was like, I never did a series on reading. But I guess in my mind they were all just kind of one-offs. Like for a long time that's how I've always painted. Is just I've never done series up until recently. But yeah, no, you're totally right. I think it was a subconscious series without even really knowing that's what I was doing. Yeah, and yeah, actually, there's another one. I don't even remember. I think it was like some sort of. I think it was like some sort of sketch I did, but yeah, it's a girl reading. She's holding a green book.
Yeah, it's called.
It's not. I don't even have a name for it.
No,
I
you
think.
don't have a name. No,
Yeah.
it's 2021.
Yeah.
Cropped out ahead. It's a beautiful painting again, just really, really nice. So anyone watching the video of this episode will see it on screen now. Amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, talking about series, I mean, recently I did a series of like dirty dishes, and which is the Dish Pit series. I only have 2 on my Instagram. I think all 4 are on my website. But that was like the first ever like conscious series. I guess first and only conscious series I've ever done. I mean, I've always worked in bars and restaurants, and I mean, my dad owns a restaurant, so I grew up there. But it felt like there's just so much reference. Like there's just every day is new. It's all very, while the work is monotonous and always feels the same, there kind of is every moment is unique in a way, especially when it comes to dirty dishes. It's just, I don't know, there's something I found like kind of an appreciation for. Now I've have those on display right now, and a lot of people are like, dude, it's too chaotic.
Really?
Yeah, or if they've worked in that similar field, they're like, oh, this is traumatizing. Which I understand. I mean, I guess is somewhat the point, but yeah, I don't know. It just felt like something I needed to do.
I love it. It's organic composition of still life is always I appreciate because it's just how it's found and it sits really well. But no, I love them because it's all again shape design is right up my alley. It's just nice seeing how things intersect and sit together and relate to each other. So yeah, I
Yeah.
found it quite satisfying to be honest. It's almost like a mosaic, you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was kind of like I always had a hard time with still life. And this again, this isn't knocking anybody, so I don't want to. I never felt like I could, or I felt like I could never relate to painting still lives because a lot of people set their still lives up, which that's great. I just like the organic moments in everyday life. A lot of people will call it mundane, which is fine, but I don't know. There's just what am I trying to say? I never wanted to pose any still lifes because it didn't feel true. And a lot of moments that I paint are at home or out and about somewhere, but they're real. I mean, for the most part, there are edits I need to make, but the subject matter itself is real, and trying to just have some sort of appreciation for like some groceries on the counter after grocery shopping, or uh, a drying rack full of dishes. It's like little moments like that. I think could be overlooked or looked at as like annoyance, and I don't know. A lot of the time, I have a lot of clarifying thought while I'm just mindlessly doing the dishes. I think about a lot of things in those moments, and I'm not trying to get all deep. And hey, none of my paintings have any meaning at all, but I just really like those moments.
Absolutely. Well, there is a sincerity to it. That's what you're, describing, isn't it? It's very sincere, environmental moment that you're capturing, and it's inescapable. People will read meaning into your paintings, regardless. Just like I group together these clusters of, literature paintings. People will
Which I
find
love.
patterns. Yeah, people find patterns. There's no escaping it, really.
Yeah. Well, I just always, sometimes I feel like such a disappointment when, I'll have someone ask, well, hey, what's the story behind this one? It's just, oh, beautiful. And I'm like, sorry, man. It's just like, it's just some trash. Like but that is the thing that, I will always love, just about art in general, is people find their own meaning in it. And hey, I don't need to, kind of like supplant this meaning into your brain. I can just do my thing and have my own feeling about it. And somehow through that, you're able to feel whatever you're going to feel. And I think that's one of the beautiful things.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. I think sometimes as well, if you explain too much, it removes some of the magic people can find in it as well. So you don't want to do too much work on their behalf. Um, but yeah, I mean, as far as we were talking about your work showing the current paintings that we were talking about of still life, the clusters, the kind of busier still life pieces of the dishes. Is that exhibited in galleries? Is that what you mean, in a gallery at the moment? Yeah.
It's exhibited not in a gallery, in a coffee shop.
Nice.
Yeah, which a friend of mine who works in that coffee shop and is an incredible painter, she curates the artwork for the coffee shop, and her name's Emily Weiss. She's an amazing painter. But I, for a while, we had talked about showing some stuff there, and I was just like, I don't up until recently, I haven't been too fond of showing pieces in galleries. I mean, I had a solo show in 2018, 2019, something like that. And that was kind of my last time. I was just kind of like, I made a bunch of work for it, and it was, good turnout, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I didn't like the pressure of working under a deadline. But these are all things I'm trying to get over. So eventually Emily talked me into showing at the cafe, and hey buddy, sorry, 1 second.
Your other cats?
Yeah, I got 3 cats.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but she was like, hey, you could even use a pseudonym. It doesn't need to be your name. But I eventually said yes to showing some work, and had like a year to get some work together, which resulted in 4 paintings. I mean, I worked on some other projects in between, but I was only able to get 4 done for that. And then I had some 3 older pieces that also kind of worked in that realm, so showed those as well. But this is like my first time showing anywhere in a long time. And from this, there's a gallery here in Portland that asked to show these paintings when they come down. So, we're still working on some details there, but, those will be exhibiting at some point. And then I'm going to be a part of a couple different group shows. So I'm trying to get back into exhibiting, which I don't know, for a long time, I didn't care. I'd paint something and sell it on my store and then call it good. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of evolution in in my painting story. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good thing. That's room for growth is always admirable when you're exploring it and you're not blocking it off. So it's being true to yourself. So if you don't work in that way, where it takes you longer to do a painting because that's your process and you spend a lot of time refining it the way you do, that's just what works for you, and that's good. That should be respected. So, but what did you say the name of the cafe is, in case people want to see the work in person?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So it's called Albina Press. Yeah, it's just a local coffee shop. I'm exhibited alongside another artist, so I have like half the cafe. They have the other one. It's some really cool paintings of buff ladies. Yeah, like very muscular women, which is cool.
Yeah. It's an interesting juxtaposition with the washing up, which is seen as more of a domestic duty. So that's quite an interesting psychological trick being played for people admiring the art as well, is seeing buff ladies who are obviously probably not domestically chained as much as the dishes can make you seem. So that could be quite an interesting juxtaposition there.
Yeah.
I like it. That sounds great. Okay, so I'll look that up and I'll put that on the screen, and put a link in the description, because there's nowhere else currently where people can see your work in person. Is that right?
Yeah, not currently. This summer there will be some stuff. Yeah, I think Seattle Art Fair might be a thing.
Okay.
But as of right now, currently May, or what month are we in?
We're in April.
We're still in April.
Just almost May, yeah.
Yeah.
This will be posted in June, just so you know. This is going to be posted in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess over the summer there will be some stuff up here in the Pacific Northwest, between Seattle and Portland.
You're in Portland, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, in that case, people should look at your website for updates. Is that where you put their updates, or is it Instagram? Where do you update people?
Instagram is the more consistent update. I'll usually just post stories of, different processes. I will have a couple different videos coming out here pretty soon. One is going to be more of a time lapse, and then one's going to be more of a long form video, like edited, and I don't know if there's going to be like a narration, or maybe I just make some music to throw over the top of it. I'm not sure yet, but it will be a longer form video. And then also going to be working on some animation here pretty soon. So that will be another thing to look out for.
Amazing. That is exciting. I may have to get you back on as a guest when that's all done, because I love the sound of that.
If it ends up working out like how we want it to work out, then yeah, definitely. I also don't know if I'm shooting myself in the foot by saying this, and then it ends up taking much longer. But yeah, that's something that my girlfriend and I are working on currently.
Well, I mentioned in one video, I don't know if it was an episode or if it was an end of season, or if it was a bonus. We do bonus shows now. I don't know if
cool.
one of those. I mentioned that I was making a film, which I am, but that's now happening next year, not this year. So I'm exactly the same, where I announce something and then realize there's just not enough bandwidth for that, because I have too many other responsibilities. So it has to be pushed back. But there's plenty to arrange still. I've only just worked out the music and growing the cast. So it's a lot to take on,
Well, that's exciting. I'll have to keep my eyes out for that.
I'll keep you posted. Yeah, it's like I said, it's early stages at the moment. I get too enthusiastic and announce things too soon, I think. But yeah, that's good. So where online should people look for your work and support you? Where would you like them to go?
Just Instagram at Wylee Risso. That's exactly how it's spelt on here, or I guess however you'll post it. And then website. I'm trying to be better about updating my website consistently. I'm kind of doing a backlog right now of posting older work on the website, trying to organize it more. I've considered doing some sort of newsletter thing. We'll see. But right now, just Instagram and the website.
Brilliant. Well, again, links will be in the description of the video and the audio platforms. Highly recommend people go and check it out. It's amazing artwork. If you haven't seen it, please go and check it out. Great to meet you. I really appreciate you joining me for this episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. If you can support the podcast by leaving a like or a comment down below, that would really be great. But what we'd really like is if you're able to leave a review on the podcast channels, wherever you listen to it or download it, because that helps us get spread around the internet so that more people have access to us and able to see what we're making.
Also, follow us on Instagram, and we'd really appreciate it if you like and engage with our posts. Help get the podcast better known. Thanks for listening.